I will give a yes or no answer. I'll say no because a president is not more or less like a robot. A president is human enough to always want that human kind of touch. Number two, President William Ruto's style of politics is the one that has contact, human contact. And he's not the first to do that. Like as I've said, Uhuru was that. Kibaki was the one who there wouldn't be any form of interaction. In fact, Kibaki's was handshake and that's it. But if you see, I can compare the fourth and the fifth president having similarity. Uhuru actually used to be very happy going.
Hugging people.
In fact, Uhuru was worse. Because if you remember, he would even just pull you and just say hi to you. There was a lady who he pulled and say hi to. Now, President William Ruto style of doing politics, as you've said, has the aspect of human contact. Remember, he sold his campaign from being this ordinary person who rose to the gates of power that no one ever expected him to be there. So he has to maintain that. He can't change that. He cannot now wake up and say, now I'm out of touch. No, he has to. Importantly, what are the events he does? He does whistle-top campaigns on top of the motor vehicle. Number two, he goes right into the spaces where he can sell his message of Mama Mboga and market areas. How do you sell that if you don't interact with people? So you feel he'll continue with the same style of politics to the end? Because that is now the work of security, as I've said, look at this. Every time a president goes to a visit, as I've said, 2-3 weeks advance. I've been lucky to be even in travels where you see like a foreign travel. Advanced team goes to site a month or 3 weeks in advance. Like that's their job. The team is split into two. There's a team that will be advanced and they will sit there until and when the president arrives, where he sleeps, what he does, what he eats, every single thing. Because presidency is an institution. So the reason why I'm saying, I don't feel it's a question of an individual who should dictate. No. Moi was more powerful and more engaging with the people. How many times did you see videos of Moi's car stuck in mud?
The space around President Moi was, you couldn't see anyone get
Thank you very much. So it's about competence of the security around you. Because if you are to use that concept of saying...
Why is it not about the style? Because I'm feeling like the president has opened up the space around
because that is
everyone.
Because that is his style. And let me show you how.
Should it be left to him to decide the space around him?
His style, it is up to him, but the security around his style is not up to him. So for example, let me give an example. You've seen him doing events in State House. The president has been hosting delegations in State House. Do you
Over 10,000 people.
Yes, do you remember the time he hosted young people? There were almost 15,000 people. And he was literally walking between them. What is the difference then? The security setup was so pinpoint, no one could stand. Where you're told, once you sit, no movements. And you know, they have several formations. I'm not a security expert to explain all those formations. There are various formations. They are all over. They are crawling over the space. There are those that you see that are suited, but they are plainclothes. In fact, plainclothes are more. And their job is to always see any movement. And you know, they have been trained to always see even more or less like side eye. Any slight movement attracts their attention. The alertness is what sells. So, despite the style of the president, despite the movement of the president, despite the interactions of the president, everything is vetted. Lastly, remember, when a president gets to a space, there was always an advanced vetting of people who come before or who sits around the president. Let me use, for example, in this case, he was in a dais. You would have given an excuse if it was in the field, where he was in the market or anything. That would be, yes, we couldn't control the crowd. But this one, he is in a dais. By the time you see sitting arrangements, they are marked and tags given. When you see people seated across board, that has already been sorted. 3-4 rows completely covered. No one sits by chance. In a presidential event, you just don't wake up and say, I'll come sit here. That's already covered. So the reason why I'm saying the style is one thing. And for me, it's a question of adaptability. Just like lawyers, for example, we face different clientele. How you deal with the client, it is dependent on the nature of the client. There's a quarrelsome client that you'll realize first thing you have to manage is anger. You don't disappoint on time, deliverables, and then manage the anger. There are those clients that are very quiet, they're very suave, their job is deliverables in terms of just do the job. So it is a question of you adapting to the client. And as we've agreed with you, it is not the call of the president to make as to how his security...
Do you think they can stop him, his security, stop him from